So how long have you been staying here for?
Oh, from the trade?
Yeah.
One week, and it's a 2-week studio residence. Do you want to know what I did here?
Yeah, I would love to.
So the first day I stayed, I did the floor, which is all abstract city, kind of the idea of all the people spiraling around that makes the life of the city. And then the second and third days, I did the comics on the wall, and I'd done comics in small form, in book form, and miniature, but I never did them wall size, so I thought having a studio to play with would be a great opportunity. So I did that for the second and third day, and then the fourth day I did the piece on beside you there as a time-lapse animation. And so that piece I just did it with stop motion, so I have a video of it being drawn, like it draws itself basically. So each day I picked a different thing to do and came in here and worked. And then over the weekend, as I opened to the public and a lot of people were coming in to see what was going on, I just mostly talked to people, telling them stories, and did a little bit of small work today.
How do you stay inspired by similar concepts? What keeps you motivated?
Well, ideas like that by trying different techniques. For example, doing the comics, I've never done them wall size, even though I've done so many stories in comic books, so it was a good just to try something new. So no matter what, I just keep going. So even if I get stuck for a moment on an idea, I just want to keep going and see what happens. So I never get tired of just trying to do something interesting.
What kind of advice would you want to give to artists that wanted to have a more consistent look to their work? Like have a more recognizable style, such as your own?
If there's something that you really enjoy, then it's a good thing to experiment with. But I also try every 6 months or once a year to do something different, even though I always use ink and paper and comic books.
What subject matter do you find yourself gravitating towards most?
Mostly it's people in the city. When I first started drawing the city as my subject matter, I drew all the people as faceless little bubbles. All the characters are spiraling forever and ever, and none of them have any real features. But then the more time I spent in the city, and doing public performances and talking to people and telling and listening to stories, the more the characters start to become fleshed out. So now from this kind of abstract giant machine city, I start to get more interested in individual characters and stories.
Do you feel that you have more of a optimistic outlook of your work, or do you feel that it has a more dark, kind of mysterious element to it?
It's both for sure, but more optimistic than in the beginning. I think it was much more pessimistic or much more nihilistic, and now after spending so much time doing public performances and talking to people, I found that there's a lot more human aspects to the city and to life, and I think it's part of the story and the aesthetic is the black and the white, the good and the bad, both sides of everything. So I like to be optimistic even if I make scary or dark looking art, and investigate both sides of everything.
What would you say through your experiences that you are most grateful for, like through all the things that you've learned in art making? What do you feel like you wouldn't want to take for granted?
Well, just meeting all the different kinds of people has been really interesting. One nice thing is that as I've done public performances, I met a lot of children, and it changed my art as well. So maybe more in a gallery setting, the art could be more serious or more dark or more, I don't know, inaccessible to people. But as you work in the public forum and you realize kids are going to come and see it, I had to find a way to express myself that both kids and adults in the art gallery could like.
Do you think that that has to do with like where you are in your life, like your maturity level and the things that you've gone through?
Well, yeah, it has to do with the experience of taking art to the streets, because in the galleries you mostly only talk to adults and you can get into a certain genre or a certain style of art, but when you go to public you get a really broad audience. So if I hadn't have done that, I think that my artwork would be entirely different.
How would you like to be remembered?
It doesn't really concern me too much. I think the closest thing to be remembered is I have a goal to make maybe a graphic novel. That's probably as close to being remembered as I've ever been concerned about. Because it's a real goal just to have that book that people would be able to buy and enjoy and learn from. When there's a really good story, a really good art, a really good comic, then they will collect them.
How will you know when you've arrived at that point where you're happy with the quality of the work and you're happy with the story? Like, how do you know when your idea is really being communicated properly?
That's a tricky one because I've made a few books over the years and haven't been as excited by them and still coming up with different ideas of what I want to do. I've started at just now really coming up with the idea of what I want to make this book, and that's started to come out in the Ball comics, and it'll probably be the companion piece to what I do in large scale comics. I'll start that book probably this year, and I guess I won't know until I finish it if it's what I really wanted, but it's just been a lot of trial and error and gathering up stories over a long period of time.
Do you think that that's a different direction than you would have initially expected, coming out as an emerging artist right out of school?
No, when I went to school I only wanted to do comics, and somehow I got into this large murals and gallery artwork and street performances, and I think that whole taking that avenue was just a way to create experiences so that I'd have something worth writing about in a comic, or writing about or telling my story, to learn, answer a whole bunch of questions like who is this, who are the people, what is the city, what is it makes the city how it is in the future, in the past, and who am I, how do I fit into it? So by doing all the artwork, I kind of created these situations that I could interact with people and learn more about those questions. And then now I just only started to go back to the comics, so it's kind of full circle and almost exactly where I thought I would end up, wanting to do a comic book. So.
How do you think your work is reflective of you as a person, or as your personality?
I think that it's completely it's kind of strange, but totally reflective of the city and all the people I meet, and exactly reflective of my personality. I mean, it's a lot of meditation on my experiences and meditation on the things that I see. So there's a very dark side to it and a very, concerned side, I should say. It's more, the dark side is concerned about the world, but also so much playful and so many fun things in the artwork to make it silly and have a good time with it. It's kind of my personality. I see the world has got a lot of problems and a lot of troubles, but you have to find a way to enjoy it and keep going through it anyways.
I'm going to get a little bit less serious now, just to kind of wrap it up on a more, I guess, comical note. What would you do if you won the lottery?
If I won the lottery?
Yeah.
Well, I would make a film, an animation for right away. It's probably the second thing I want to do after the comic book, but it's a much bigger endeavor, so I know that's what I would do. So
you would still focus on art making, and it's an important part of your life.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure I would travel more than I do, but I would open a studio right away and hire the right kind of people to make an animation based on this work.
If you had 2 weeks left to live, how would you spend those 2 weeks?
I think I just want to go somewhere really nice, just relax. Somewhere in nature, I suppose, get away from the city and everything else. That's
funny that you would make all this work about the city
and then just want to go
and then just want to get away from it.
I think that's what I would want to do.
Well, thank you so much. This has been Mike Parsons with Hey Apathy at the Drake Hotel. Thanks.